Hello everyone, my name is Alex Nasser and I'm doing a project for my Geography 331 Conservation Geography course, and the title of my PowerPoint is called Utilizing GIS to Test the Conservation Mismatch Hypothesis. So we're going to go ahead and start off with the Jenkins Conservation Mismatch Theory, and this is a theory proposed by Clinton N. Jenkins in his paper titled U.S. Protected Lands Mismatch Biodiversity Priorities. And in his journal article, Jenkins states that conservation is not done in places that need it most. And on the left here, you can see that there's a map showing protection, so where are federally lands protected in the United States. And on the right, there's a map showing priorities. So where is that conservation needed in the United States? And Jenkins outlines in his article, and he goes on to say that failure to do so could mean the extinction of the country's unique species. So Jenkins is basically saying that if we don't conserve our species, they're going to go ahead and they're going to continue on this ongoing trend of extinction. So there are some contrasting views to Jenkins' theory. One view is outlined by Christopher J. Brown in his paper titled Effective Conservation Requires Clear Objectives and Prioritizing Actions, Not Places or Species. And Brown goes on to say, in summary, we should not focus on where, but actually how we are going to put these objectives into direct use. Brown also does outline 4 lessons in his essay, and he says that number 1, we should prioritize setting requires explicit and defensible objectives. 2, conservation plans should prioritize actions, not species or places. 3, conservation plans should consider some economic, social, and political constraints on actions. 4, conservation planning central principle of decision account for the composition of species assemblages across the site. So he's basically saying that we should look at all species or places, not just where they need it most. And on the other side, Jenkins came back and he had a response to this response. And Jenkins' article is titled Species and Places Are the Priority for Conservation, Not Economic Efficiency. And Jenkins goes on to say, we need to prioritize based on species needing greater protection, which is the basic doctrine of conservation. Economic efficiency is not the answer to species conservation because this will continue the current trend of species extinction. So this brings me to my research question, in which I will assess the conservation and mismatch theory using endemic species location, which is then put into a raster calculator to show endemics in the United States. Taking this map, one is able to compare it to protected lands in the United States, and with feature to point, protected area points, and point density, this is going to show us conservation density. And as I stated before, I will be using published journal articles as well as contrasting viewpoints to these articles, and forthcoming in my PowerPoint presentation, I will show you my own formulated ArcGIS models and maps to get a better perspective on where we can do species conservation. So my first map is focusing on endemic species, and this is taking the trees, birds, amphibians, and mammals layer, put it into a raster calculator, and that's giving you the endemic species layer. So you're probably wondering what an endemic species is, and an endemic species is one species that is found on one location on the planet and not anywhere else. These species are vulnerable due to their low geographical range. One example from Minnesota is mussels, and I found that from the Minnesota DNR website. So you can see on my map, the areas of high endemic species are in the southeastern United States, and the areas in black are where low endemic species are found. This is a map showing where the large and small areas of protected lands are in the United States in meters by square area. As you can see in those dark blue, kind of purplish almost areas, most of the protected land is located in the west, and that's governmental land, while the land in the southeast is private land. So this is my final map that I have, and this is where conservation density is. I use this by getting the protected lands with feature to point, protected area points, and then through point density, and this gave me my conservation density map. And this shows us that conservation density is highest in the interior west. So from that previous slide, I showed you where those protected lands were. This is just another map showing us where a lot of that conservation is currently being used in the United States. So this is kind of opposite of that first map I showed you with endemic species, and that's where conservation is needed. This is where conservation is being done. So you can see those dark black areas is where a lot of that conservation is being done. These are the data layers that I used in my research. Which brings me to my conclusion that species conservation is currently not where it is needed. A lot of endemic species are located in the southeast, while conservation and the bulk of federal lands are located in the interior west. It also must be stated that lands in the southeast are private lands, and this also calls for land easements or land purchases. I also found another article by Holbert and Jets, and that was a research study that found that there were absences in species distributions, and that holes in ranges can explain ecological traits like niche breadth, which can also explain interspecific variation in range occupancy. Here is my bibliography. Hope you enjoyed my presentation today, and thank you for your time.